Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elisabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza and Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. It's another Tuesday, which means another day of the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. And once again, we have the lovely Holly with us today. Hi, Holly.
Hello.
She's back, and it's so wonderful because we just laugh together a lot when we talk, and we have a lot of fun.
Yes.
So this episode, we think this episode will be brief, but we always say that we think it'll be brief, and then it never is. But we are going to take a little bit of time today to talk specifically about adding gratuity options to your invoices, specifically for service-based work. I don't know a situation where gratuity would be not involved in service-based work.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not sure why I felt like I needed to specify that in the title of the episode. But I
know
did.
I got a little nervous for a second. Wait a minute, service-based. Oh God, is that what I do? I do that. Wait.
You do, yes. Well, you do a lot of different types of work, so maybe that's why I felt like I needed to specify that we're talking about wedding invitations or scenarios where you work one-on-one with clients. And
no, it's a good clarification for sure.
Yeah. And I think we've gotten some questions about this in Q and Cakes before, but I thought it was kind of a good enough topic and probably that we would have enough opinions on it to be broken into its own episode. Because everyone thinks about this a little differently. And I thought it would be interesting to start with where the expectation for gratuity originally comes from. And it's not I did a Wikipedia dive or anything. It's more of my cultural understanding, because if you're not aware, I think this gratuity is very much an American thing. If you go to Europe, they'll look at you like you're crazy if you try to tip
if you give them money.
Yeah. Because they're basically paid what they should be paid for their service position. And here I feel it kind of started as potentially in the restaurant industry or the food industry, where someone is making wages, a very low hourly wage, and the way that is compensated is through tips that they're receiving. So that allows them to make more. I don't understand the legality of that fully, and
right? Seems when you spell it out, it sounds so weird. We're not paying you enough, so you have to rely on other people's generosity in order to make a living. And you're wait, what?
Yeah, and so it's a very odd American specific thing. I don't think that there's a lot of other cultures that do it the way that we do.
Yeah.
So that's where kind of the expectation of gratuity or tipping would come from on a more, I don't know, what I would consider a quicker transaction when you interact with the customer. Did you get really good service for an hour or something? And so how do we apply this to working with clients where it spans months? And should we expect it or not? So I would like to ask you first, Holly, have you provided places for people to give you gratuity? And also, within your knowledge of the wedding industry, what are some vendors that you have seen ask for gratuity? And then we can talk about our thoughts on it. Because I have some thoughts, but
yeah. I mean, I use Dubsado for all of my client management system stuff. And before that, I used Honeybook, and in both of them, I did turn on the tipping option. And I felt a little icky about that at first, because my mom always kind of beat it into my head. When you own the business, you don't get tips because you're supposed to make enough money to support yourself basically by what you charge. And also when I was getting married, it was kind of but, is this a company that I'm paying, or is this an individual person? If it's an individual person, then I don't tip them. If it's a company, then I would tip them so they can split it among the staff, which looking back on it, like what a terrible viewpoint that was, I feel like. Like, why did I think that? And I'm pretty sure I did tip everybody because I was like, why would I not do that? And I think it was some blog that I read that said that, like, only tip these vendors, like don't tip these or whatever. But yeah, I think having the tipping feature is like, it's not as bad as everybody kind of makes it out to be.
Right.
I don't know. And then I totally like lost track of that second part of the question because I got onto my wedding tipping thing. What was it again?
Well, because I had asked, like, do you have the ability for people to tip you, like, turned on? And then, like, what are examples of wedding vendors where that's maybe expected? Because I remember when planning my wedding, like, and I was very, like, fortunate that my mom did so much of it. So she was kind of, like, heading up a lot of that stuff. But then when she told me at the end of the day, like, oh, I have to make sure, like, on the day of the wedding to bring such and such, like, money for tips for, like, these vendors, I was kind of, like, shocked, I guess. I was like, wait, what? Like, you guys put how much money into the wedding? And then, like, you're also being asked, like, the wedding planner basically said, she was like, okay, and you, like, bring tips for, like, this, and this people, which I guess had confused me because I think there was that aspect of, like, okay, well, if all of these people are, like, running their own businesses to some degree, like, why isn't that built in to the pricing? I don't know.
Yeah,
so
I felt the same way. Like, I think we tipped, the one that kind of, like, blew my mind a little bit, I think, was, like, the florist. And I was like, wait, we paid, please, if any florists are listening, please don't come at me. Like, it's just like, we paid for a service and we paid for the flowers and everything. And, like, part of the service was you coming to the wedding and setting up. Like, you didn't interact with anybody probably other than, like, other vendors. And, like, that was just kind of it. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like going to get your car repaired and, like, tipping them. It's just like, it's all rolled into that. Right. But then at the same time, I remember tipping them because, first of all, they were lovely people and we kind of made friends with them along the way. But also, like, they dealt with a lot of stress that day. You know, there's a lot of stress in, like, loading and unloading, and, like, plans change always. You know, they expect to go to a certain place and, like, it's never available. So, like, they have to drive around or, like, go somewhere else. And so there's a lot of, like, extra stuff going on. And I think the tipping really kind of lets them know, like, you like, went above and beyond. You did a great job. We so appreciate you. It's not like I'm tipping you because I have to. It's like, I'm tipping you because I think that you did an excellent service and I really appreciate you above and beyond what you've already charged me. Yeah. I don't know. It is kind of like a weird thing to think about.
Yeah. I definitely like it in the regards of, like, if you feel like that above and beyond, like, effort has been made. And that's also, I guess, hard to plan in advance sometimes, like, for the wedding day. Like, how am I going to handle this? Like, tipping vendors or, like, not tipping vendors. I think that potentially puts, like, more stress on the clients. I know it put more stress on my mom trying to remember, like, the details of, like, who gets tipped what and, like, how all of that works. And so, like, I think having a business model where some of that is, like, built in a little bit never hurts. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it is, like, one of those weird subjects because I have the gratuity on in case anybody wants to use it, not because I expect it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. But then people are nervous to turn it on because they're like, well, does it look like I'm expecting it?
I don't know, that is an interesting way of looking at it. Like, when I go somewhere and have a service done and there's, like, an option for tipping, like, I can give that person 10%, I can give them 50%, or I can give them nothing. Like, it's kind of it's like your discretion. And, like, I never feel, like, awkward about it, I guess, even though I should feel awkward because I'm a very awkward person. But, like, I never feel like people are staring me down. Like, I know what you're picking. I know what you're selecting. Like,
right.
You know, it's just, gratuity is gratuity for a reason. It's an additional payment that this person is giving you because they think that you did a great job. And if they don't give you gratuity or a tip or whatever, that's not like a reflection on you as a business necessarily. Like maybe they were just raised the way that I was, which is like, if you own the business, you don't get a tip, you know?
Yeah.
Or like maybe they don't think that you did it like above and beyond service. And maybe that's something that you can reflect on later and use that as a learning experience. Like, yeah, that client like didn't really work out the way that I thought it would. So I understand why they didn't add gratuity onto their invoice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's like a bad thing to have on your Dubsado or Honeybook system at all.
Yeah. And it could be something too that can be made part of your onboarding process if you want to communicate that of like, just so you know, there is an option for gratuity, but that is not expected or required.
Yeah.
To kind of like put people at ease. And just because I am so passionate about like pricing, like what's worth your value is like, you should be like making enough, you know, and then that's just kind of an extra little, ooh, like that, that was like nice of them. But also there's half of me that's like, I would take like a written review over a tip any day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, if you're just going to tip like no money, I mean, any money is good money. Like, I'm not trying to discount anything, but like if you have a choice between leaving a 10% tip on like a $500 order or a review, like please leave me a review because that could get me 3 more clients that are going to pay, you know, twice that or 3 times that or whatever. So yeah, I'm totally with you. Like gratuity is very welcome. Like,
yes,
reviews are so wonderful and like their own form of tipping, I think, because you don't always get them, but it's really nice to get them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really nice to get them. And I think part of the reason that I think like my perception of like the wedding industry has changed over time and what used to be like service-based is still very much, it is still a service-based industry, but it's like so much more than that now because like weddings are like $1 billion industry and like it's not, to me it's like there's so much effort put in, but it's maybe not the same as like somebody who is like waiting tables doing like hours and hours of a shift to like give each client like their own like specific attention and their needs. And so that's where I get like lost in like how wedding vendors like should present that. And here, I'll just say it. I would prefer to like just pay up front for what those vendors are like asking me to pay, knowing that their costs are covered, that I'm paying for a good job, that they're serving me at the best of their ability, rather than to have to go back later and like overthink about, am I tipping any of these people? You know,
I agree.
It is one more thing for them to have to think about. And I think something that like changed my mentality in this so much was actually recently, where I went to my hairstylist and she's changed her pricing structure a little bit. And she basically was like, I no longer accept tips. She's like, I no longer accept tips. I run my own business. I set my prices. I'm not like controlled by somebody above me. And so like what you're paying is like the price that I have set and what I need to like keep my business running. And she said that like generationally, some of like her, that has confused like some of her older clients a lot. They're like, wait, like, what do you mean? Or like, I don't get it. And for me, I'm like, oh, this is such a relief. Like, I don't have to like overthink this anymore or feel like awkward or weird when I'm doing this. Like, I'm paying you what you want. And I know that that like sustains you basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like a generational like shift in like mindset, but it's like, I'm not opposed to like people asking tips, and I'm not telling people that they shouldn't like have that as an option, because I think you should have it as an option because there's people that will do it.
Yeah.
So
right. I was just, when you were talking about that with your hairdresser, like baking in that, like, I don't accept tips or anything. I don't know why I immediately thought of this, but I kind of got a little like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, because what if I don't like the service that you gave me? And like my tip is now automatically in there. What if I was only going to give you 15% instead of 20?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and they're like, well, there's 10 of you, so we're going to charge you 18% or 25% gratuity automatically. And you're like, well, I don't know what kind of service I'm going to get because of that, because now the server is just guaranteed this and they're not going to try maybe to like, you know, really like refill the wine or like get our food out super quick or whatever. Like it just, you have to be really careful, I think, with that just for that reason. Like you don't want to, like, that's a great thing that you don't accept tips because that takes a lot of pressure off of the customers, like you said, but you also don't want to offend anybody that's like, wait, you included my tip in your pricing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not okay with that. Like, how much extra are you padding this with, you know, expecting that I'm going to tip you this at the end? So it's kind of like a weird line to walk, you know, because I like both of those options. They just both have downsides and positives.
Yeah, I know. As with everything in life, there is a bit of a pro and con. And to be fair, like I've been going to this girl for like years.
Yeah.
So I like know that she's not going to like butcher my hair or mess it up. And I think for her, it's like as she's growing and scaling like her hairdressing business, she's like, you know what? I know what my time is worth and I need to be like charging accordingly and not charging like if she was in a salon working for somebody else, they dictate the pricing.
Right. Yeah.
And she has no decision in how that's dictated. The same as like a waiter who works within like even a fancy restaurant. Like those prices on the menu are dictated by someone else. You don't have a decision over that. And so that is the tip is given directly like to you when you're not in control of like what else has been charged, I guess. So yeah, it is kind of funny because I am able to see it like both ways, but I was like kind of like excited for her. I guess I was like, oh, that's kind of like cool that you're doing something different. And she's trying to think like a little more long-term, and it helps her budget so much better because she's like, I know I booked this person. My hair always takes like 3 hours because I have like so much hair, you know? So she's like knows that she's being like paid accordingly because there's been times in the past where I've like gone and I've booked a slot and it's like there's no way that I can be taking up too much of your time, I feel like, for what like
for what they're charging,
service that I booked and like maybe like what's being charged. And so, you know, I think she's like working that out and like what works for her business. But I don't know. I don't know if there's like a luxury feel to that for me or not. I can't figure it out.
No, this is an interesting conversation because I've never really considered other sides to it. It was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll press this button and turn this feature on, you know?
Yeah. But which like, I don't think there is anything wrong with having it on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally 100% agree with you that like if you are charging accordingly, then these tips are just kind of like icing on the cake. If you get one, it's just like, oh, I have a little extra like spending money or something, or maybe I can like reinvest this into the business. But if you don't get tips, it's not the end of the day or like the end of all things. It's like, no, I've marked things up accordingly. Like I'm covering my supplies, I'm covering my time and everything, and I'm making the profit that I need to make. So I think it really is just one of those like, do you feel comfortable accepting gratuity or do you not? And there's no right or wrong answer there. It's just, I don't know. It's so different from like what you're talking about like a hair, like a salon or a restaurant where that's just industry standard. Like you just walk in and you know that you're going to add a tip at the end of that. And it's like kind of cool that your hair stylist is like baking that in because you just know what you're going to pay. You've already paid it. And you don't have to think about adding 20% or 15 or 25 or whatever it is to that cost. That's just it. Like when I got my hair and makeup done for my branding shoot a couple weeks ago, I like walked in the door. I kind of knew what I was going to be charged because I hadn't done hair and makeup. I'd just done hair before. And then I had to add tip onto that, which I was not budgeting for some reason. And then I was like, oh, this puts me over budget a little bit. But if I would have had that baked in to begin with, then it would have been like easy peasy. We got this.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy to know and understand. Was
Yeah.
that person like part of a bigger company, or they were their own individual?
Their own business.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, like I knew that she was going on a trip to Paris and with her daughter.
Yeah.
And like I knew that she was doing all these things. So like I wanted to give her a little bit more money so that, you know, like that's nice. Like you have a little bit of extra spending money to like go do something. And I think that's what's great about people that do own their own businesses and you work with them, like you get a more personal relationship. And so you're kind of like, I know where this money's going. Like this money is going to my son or her son that's in like daycare. It's going to like pay for a week or something. Like it's kind of nice to have that feature available to you, I think. But this is a weird, tough question or like thing to think about.
Yeah, it is something that I just haven't given a lot of like in-depth thought to until I've had like, I guess, a couple experiences, like the one with my hair stylist. And then like another one when in the fall of 2020, Will and I went to this like all-inclusive dude ranch in Montana, which sounds like bougie, and it was. Because we were going to go to Switzerland early that year, which got canceled, and we like reallocated our funds to that instead, because domestic travel was like a lot easier to work out at that point. And that was also one of those things where it was like we paid for this a really nice experience. There's individual staff members that are like always helping you, whether it's like the bartender making the drinks, or it's the chefs, or it's the people that are taking you on like tours or helping like guide activities. There's like so many staff involved, but that at the end of it, like you paid, and what you paid, what the original price like listed, that included gratuity for everyone, so that it was like, as a guest, we weren't left overthinking of like, do we have to tip like her and him, and like who do I how does this like work, like how does this happen? And so I think that like framed my mindset around like, I don't know, I hesitate to say like the idea of like luxury, but like also like a little bit in a sense, you know, it's like, you know, and you value like what you're paying for as is, and they're like charging accordingly. And so but the thing is, like, I'm saying all of this, and I'm still also saying to like have gratuity on. So
I know I keep saying like, yes, everything that you're saying is making total sense. But like also please keep gratuity on your proposals.
Exactly. Because
I
like,
and I think
not?
that's why I like Dubsado and Honeybook, the way that they do it, because it is like very small and like it's out of the way and it's unobtrusive, and you don't feel like you're like waving your arms in front of somebody's face like, please tip me. It's more of a like, hey, like, by the way, this is just something extra. Please don't feel obligated to do this. Just press the no thanks and move on. Like, we'll never know kind of thing. And so I think the gratuity thing is, it's kind of all in how you ask. Like, you know, you're obviously not going to ask somebody if you're not working with like a client management system of some kind, like at the end of your like delivering the invitations, and you're like, now here's a receipt, please sign and leave a tip. Thank you. You know? I don't know. I just keep coming back to this over and over. Like, it's like a thing that I encourage you guys to put on there. We encourage you to put on there. But like, if you don't want to do it, that's like, nobody's expecting you to do this. And the industry isn't expecting you to do this. This isn't like an industry standard thing. I think that invitations, especially, it's not like a thing. Like when you have a planner, you tip them. Like, that's like a bunch of hours of their day or their life, basically. And like they're dealing with guests and drunkenness and all of that stuff. So like, I think that they like deserve a tip, but like invitations, we're not there on the day of. We're doing everything kind of behind the scenes. So it's kind of like, how were your interpersonal skills with your clients? I think that's going to dictate like gratuity and tipping and things like that, rather than like an in-person kind of service. So I think that's where a lot of that like ickiness kind of comes from, is that we're not usually directly like in person involved with the clients. And so how do I wrap my mind around tipping for something that I didn't like set a plate down in front of them, or like I didn't escort a guest to like the proper place to sit or something. It's, I don't know. We deserve the same like option for gratuity, but it's not as much of a necessity, I feel like, as it is with vendors that are there on the day of the wedding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was like a really crazy long-winded thing, but
no, I mean, it was all really good though. Like all of it comes back to like your original pricing. And if you just need to make sure that like what you're pricing originally is what's going to like pay your expenses, make you a living. And then like the gratuity is just like a nice little, well, it's extra and they appreciated me. I did have some clients, and you know these clients, Holly, who actually paid me gratuity when they booked me. And that was like interesting.
I have that happen.
I kind of didn't know what to do with that. I was like, but I haven't like done anything yet. And that was a moment where I was like, oh, I wish I had like turned that off, because there's like a part of me that's like, wait, I don't want it like up front. Twice. I want it. I want it like at the end or whatever.
I feel like there needs to be a something that we can like switch it off for first payments or whatever. And it's just on like a final payment for something, like your last invoice is due. Here's a gratuity option, because I get that too. Like some people tip when they book their retainer fee, and I'm like, wait. Like we've only talked on the phone once. Like I haven't made anything for you. How do you know that this is going to be so good? I mean, I know you just gave me money, but like, is it worth tipping at this point?
Yes.
Like, it's so odd.
And that's another, like with the whole, like providing a little bit of like a disclaimer for the client can be so helpful, especially when we forget it's there. And then we like see that someone's like paid a tip on a, like when they initially book, and you're like, why did you do that? And it's like, well, did they think they needed to because they saw that it was there? And so like providing a little bit of like, please, like no need to like use the gratuity option unless you feel so compelled, like when we finish the project.
Please hold your applause until the end.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's like they're giving you like a standing ovation like at the beginning, and you're like, oh, I haven't even done anything yet. Well, yeah. And so that was like another thing, is that like we know how that story ends, right? It's like we parted ways. And so it was like, of course, I gave them back their payment that would have applied to the wedding invitations, and also like gave them back their gratuity. And so that's like always, that's kind of like an awkward thing too, is like, well, like, of course I'm going to give this back to you. I'm like not keeping it.
It's like, what if you complete the project and then there's like some snafu that happens afterwards, and like, I don't know, you decide to give your client back a portion of their invoice that they've paid for whatever reason. Are you obligated then to return their gratuity or a portion of their gratuity? Like at what point is that morally or ethically or whatever, like kind of wrong, to keep that or give it back? Like there's a lot of weird things about tipping, and like taxes, you have to like claim tips for taxes and things like that. So do you want to be taxed on the tips that you receive, or do you just kind of like, do you just want to forego that altogether? Like what do you want to do, and how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I've had people like tip me through Venmo, which is like good that you bring up taxes now. Because I need to, and the thing is, it's because I worked with like family friends, and so she was like, what's your Venmo? And then she like sent me like a generous tip like through there. I just like totally wasn't expecting it at all. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably go back and make a note of that.
I know you always like, you don't think about that, especially like I've had several clients, especially during wedding season, when I do deliveries for day of pieces, they'll like have a card for me with cash in it. And I'm like, like, thank you for the cash, because I love cash. It's easy to spend or whatever. But like now I have to make a note of that, like claim that,
That's why people love cash, because some people don't make a note of it. I'm not saying you should.
This is not business advice, right? Please don't listen to this.
Yes, if you're keeping everything above board, right, on the table, not under the table. Then you need to be reporting the cash transactions, just like how somebody writes you a check, That all has to be reported too.
Yeah. And if you do take payments only by like check or bank transfer or something like that, then I feel like you've kind of like, you've just skipped over this whole gratuity question, like in general, because how are people tipping you? They can't tip you. They're not going to like write you a check for $200 more than what their invoice says.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, it comes down to like credit card payments and things like that. That's the easiest way to get tips from people, or, turn on the tipping feature, I guess.
Yeah. For people to add that in.
It's a weird not morally, but just like a weird gray area with gratuity and our industry, I think. And I think a lot of people have struggled with this because, I don't know, I've had that question asked of me, and you've obviously had it asked of you. So people are concerned about, I think, looking greedy maybe. And that's not what it is at all. The people who have given me tips are generally the ones that I have, first of all, the best relationship with of all of my clients, but also just like the people that we have really like worked collaboratively together in the best way, like have a good working relationship. And I think that the gratuity has come from a place of like, you have listened to what I've had to say, and I feel heard, and I feel like I need to reward you for that. Like I know that you're already making money off of what you've charged me, but like, I just need to give you a little bit extra to show my appreciation. And that's great. Please do that, or don't. Like, just you paying me at all is really the reward. Like, thank you for choosing me. Thank you so much for picking me to do your invitations.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's like helpful for people to just like kind of like hear us talk it through and be like, we have like mixed feelings too. And like ultimately, I think when people don't have like super strong convictions one way or the other, that means that it's like really is an area that's like solely up to your individual discretion. Like you're not like committing some huge like massive faux pas by either having it or not having it,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, like we've said so many times in this episode already, like it really is whatever you feel comfortable with. And that we don't really get to say that very often with things, because it usually is very like black and white. Like, no, you really should do it this way. Yeah. But like with this, it's like, no, like you totally can do with or without, and it's not going to affect your business at all. Like it's up in the air, whatever you want to do.
Yep. Whatever you want to do. So there you go, guys. That was 30 minutes of us like eventually getting to the point of like, do whatever you want, even though we have thoughts.
Yeah, I think we have very strong thoughts, but the strong thoughts are whatever.
Yes.
It's up to you.
It's up to you. So
like, I'm never turning off my tipping feature, but you don't ever have to turn it on.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, guys, I think that that wraps us up for today. It's a little shorter and sweeter, but if you have any further questions, you can, of course, visit bizbirthdaybash.com/Q&Cake. And don't forget, since Holly is here and helping us be an amazing co-host, that if you are going to sign up for the A to Z directory, to go to bizbirthdaybash.com/Holly to use her link. And there is a coupon code on that page that would save you $20 for your first year, which is something that I have forgotten to mention before. So probably would have been good to mention. Surprise! There's a coupon. And that way Holly would get credited with that. And that would be really nice to thank her for being here and for sharing her wisdom with us.
It's like tipping, but for being on the podcast.
Exactly. I mean, I played around with the idea actually of making like a gratuity option on our website before, like for the podcast, because it is like a free resource. Yeah. But then we were like, would anyone ever use that? Like I doubt absolutely. It. There's a reason.
I'm sure.
Really?
Yeah. I've listened to obviously a lot of podcasts, lots of true crime podcasts, but there's several of them that actually have like a site set up and I can't remember what it's called now. It's like one of those like tiered things. Why can't I think of this? Where you like pay a certain amount of money to get like resources, and it's like you pay $1 a month, and it's
yeah,
it
starts with
you
the
pay
P.
$5. Yes,
Patreon.
there you go. So I mean, that's definitely a thing, and I mean, everybody knows like podcasts are like basically it's like you're doing it for free kind of. So any little bit helps, I think. And the people who have been listening for years, like they're your biggest supporters, of course. Yeah. Like that's such a good idea.
Oh, maybe.
It's one of those like tipping things that's not necessary, but very appreciated, everybody.
Yes, that's very true. Because I had a whole like listing. It was just a Squarespace listing that was set up called Tip Jar, basically.
Yeah.
And it was like, it would just let you choose like an amount that that you wanted. So maybe I will revisit that again now that we've had this whole like discussion.
Yeah.
Anywho, everybody, we love you. Thank you for listening to our ramblings, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yes, we will. Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that, or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.